Hi everyone, I'm Professor Bayless and I'll be facilitating this online statistics course. I wanted to take an opportunity to make a video so that we could meet face to face, even though I can't see you. It would be great if some of you would make a video for our introduction discussion where we're kind of doing like the meet and greet. That'd be a great way to actually meet you, but it's okay if you don't want to. I wanted to give you a basic overview of the class and also tell you some information about my background. So I am Brandy Bayless. I teach at Crafton Hills College. I teach mathematics. I'm also a big part of the Educational Technology Committee and the local union and the math department where I'm co-chair with Professor McCoy. I've taught statistics face-to-face a lot of times, maybe more than 25 times. It's been quite a few times because I teach it every semester in at least a few sections. I've taught online a number of times as well, but this is my first time teaching statistics online. So if you have any feedback for me, I'm happy to hear it. Don't be shy. If you think something's confusing or maybe you couldn't find something and you think it's missing, just shoot me an email or throw it in the Ask My Instructor discussion board, which I'll show you in a minute. But just make sure those lines of communication stay open because I can't make it better unless you tell me something is wrong. For the basics of our course, we're learning statistics. We're going to use this book. It's Elementary Statistics by Larson. The book will come with MyMathLab, which will be where you're doing most of your homework and also where most of the lectures are happening. But the book itself, if you want the physical copy like this, is very expensive. So I highly suggest that you just go with the MyMathLab version of the book. And then if you get tired of reading on the screen all the time, because it will come with like a giant PDF of this. If you get tired of that, then look for an older edition online. So this is the 7th, so look for the 6th or the 5th, and that should be pretty inexpensive because it will be used in an older edition, and that'll give you a break from reading on the screen all the time. There's also lots of lecture videos that I've assigned by the author of this, and so that can give you an alternative for reading cover to cover as well, because we do cover the majority of the book. You may be wondering, if the author is lecturing, then what are you doing? And what I'm doing is facilitating learning, which is the same thing I do in a face-to-face classroom. I try and keep my lectures short, and we spend most of our time on group work, activities, discussions, and really trying to move through the problems together. Because if we could all learn from somebody just lecturing at us, then YouTube would have made us all Nobel laureates by now. Since we're not all Nobel laureates, I don't think that we all learn the same way from just watching a video. So I've built in lots of discussions into our class where you can get in and start asking questions and asking for more depth on some of these problems and making sure that you understand the whole idea rather than just memorizing some definitions from a video or understanding what the point of the problem is rather than just memorizing an algorithm from a video. And that way, when you move forward in your next class, if you're in a research major, you'll be able to use the statistics when you get there. And if you move forward in your job, no matter what it is, I'm sure you'll need some sort of statistics when you get there. Medians and standard deviations will come up. Hypothesis testing will come up, although they may not call it that. Confidence intervals will for sure come up at work, even though they probably won't call it that. And this class gives you that background. Let's see, our book is about 15 chapters long, and like I said, we cover almost all of them. So it's 11 chapters long, with one secret chapter that's only online, chapter 11. And we cover the main majority of them. We do so in parts. You can see our book is broken up into several parts. And with one small exception, every part will be one of our exams. The exception would be part 1. The probability section I moved into the first exam. And that's because I've taught this class a lot, and when I try and put probability as well as all of the ideas for probability distributions on one exam, that always ends up being everybody's lowest exam score because that is a lot of new, scary, confusing information for one exam. So I'm hoping by moving the probability section into the more definitions and what is statistics area, we'll be more successful in that next exam that can cover a little bit less. So we'll also have one final that's cumulative. It covers the whole class. And before you get worked up about that giant final that will cover a whole book, just remember that our goal for the next 18 weeks is to make sure that everyone can pass that final. The final is not written to trick you. I'm not trying to fail anyone. I want to see everybody not just be successful in a course, but understand statistics because it is very useful. Before I started here, I was a full stack programmer for the web and also a data analyst or a business analyst. Essentially, I took a bunch of data and I handed it to people and made sure things matched and did a lot of stuff in databases. And that kind of solidified my ideas of, even though it may not have been traditionally there, we're moving forward into a big data push. Everybody wants to talk data. Every major is moving towards requiring statistics for their majors rather than requiring algebra, which I think is a great idea because honestly, in everyday day-to-day life, we're not using algebra. We're using the ideas of math. We're using percentages. We're using, APRs. We're using medians, and we're using standard deviations, even though we may not call them those words. They're coming up all the time. And so this class is an important class to be able to move forward and understand things as you go through life, and not just that one class that you had to take in college that'll never come up again. We spend a lot of time in Excel in our class. I've made sure that the testing center will have it on hand, so when you come in for your proctored exams, which we'll talk about in a minute, you'll have Excel to use, and I really encourage you to use it in the homework as well. You get it for free through Crafton, so there's instructions inside the classroom when you go through the introduction module that I show you how to go download Excel and make sure that you can use it at home. And I'll make lots of videos showing you how to sort of click around and gather the information that we are. Excel is a really powerful tool, and it's a very helpful tool. Almost every single job you can think of will use Excel at some point to be able to look at numbers and organize them, because that's mostly what we do when we look at numbers, right? It's not very helpful to see a giant list of 500 different, sizes of screws. You want to be able to see how many of each one you need, or what their range is, or how many buckets you would need in a truck to carry them. And that is more helpful information than just a bunch of numbers. And Excel helps us organize that information. I have an AA in Liberal Studies from Crafton Hills College. I have a BS in Applied Mathematics from Cal Poly Pomona, and I have a master's as well from Cal Poly Pomona in Applied Mathematics. I've never once in my life used a TI-84, but that is what a lot of my students come to me with. Like, can you help me use this calculator? I would love to, but it's not a skill that we'll need as we move forward. That TI-84 is going to come up in this class and never again. But something like Excel or some other version of it that maybe is more expensive like SPSS will, some sort of data analyzing tool. So use this opportunity to learn how to use Excel, and when you're done, add it to your resume. It's one more thing that you know that you can use when you go get a job. As far as layout for due dates, everything in our class is due on a Wednesday. This is because from teaching online for so long, I've learned that when I make things due on a Sunday, then if you have technical errors, if your internet went down, if your computer went down, if your password's broken, it can be really hard to get hold of me to make sure that you can get an extension, or to get hold of help desk or anybody else to help you out in that situation. So what I've done is I've moved all the due dates to Wednesday at 4 p.m. That way, when it is due, I'm around and help desk is around, and your internet service provider is around, and that way there's no last minute emergencies that you can't get fixed. I highly suggest though that you work ahead, because most of my online students are weekend warriors. And so if you're going to do things on Saturday and Sunday, then you need to be working ahead of the due dates that will be on Wednesdays. Test proctoring is a big concept for this class, and that is because most people aren't used to taking a face-to-face exam in an online class. So let's spend some time talking about what test proctoring is. When you have an exam proctored, it means that you go into a proctoring center, which is could be a library or a high school or a community college, and you have the exam there, and you sit down and you take it where they tell you to take it, and then you pass the exam to them, and they will scan it and email it to me. For our class, I highly suggest that you use the testing center, which I'm pointing at, it's over there at Crafton Hills College. One, because it's free, and not all testing centers are. And two, because they have Saturday hours built specially for our class so that our working students can come in. But if you are out of state or out of country or just out of the area, then you're going to need to look up an area by you where you can take the exam and try and make sure that they have Excel handy. I would start, like I said, with your local libraries and then with your local community colleges to see if there's anything by you that has hours that will work for your proctoring. I encourage you to read carefully through the syllabus. I put a lot of time into trying to organize tools for success and to try and work out your assessments so that you're clear on what you're being assessed on and what like safety nets you have for those. So homework sections that get dropped, and if you have emergency come up and you miss a quiz, what happens? So take some time to read through the syllabus and make sure that you feel comfortable signing up for this class and that you can make those due dates. All right, so now I'm gonna switch to my computer screen and I'm gonna try and give you a tour, show you how to sign into Canvas and how to bring up our class basics and start the course. Here we are again. Okay, so this is how we get to our class from the very beginning. So I'm gonna open an incognito window so that I gotta sign in from everything. Okay, so I've opened a browser window and now I'm going to go to Crofton Hills College. I'll select logins up at the top and then online classes in Canvas. From here it should ask me for my login, which luckily I put in there because I wasn't sure I could come up with that. Okay, so continue to requested website and you should get to a dashboard that has all of your classes on it, and ours should have this fancy picture and the intro to statistics and probability. So if you select our class, we'll come to the landing page, and let me go ahead and switch to student view so it looks like your view. So we've got our start here, which will take you to the welcome module, the syllabus, which is a PDF, the modules, which are essentially like, you can think of each module as a week worth of learning in a face-to-face class. So like a Tuesday, Thursday class would be inside one module. The Ask the Instructor discussion board, the Ask a Classmate discussion board, and the announcements. So most of this is pretty straightforward. Modules would be the main big weird new thing, and I'll show you how to navigate those in a second. But I did want to talk about the Ask the Instructor and Ask a Classmate. So the Ask an Instructor discussion board is for general questions about the class, like, oh, I can't find the syllabus, or is the final proctored, those kind of questions that should be asked kind of to everyone, like the kind of question you would raise your hand for in class that may not have to do with a specific lecture, but just kind of how the class functions. What you don't want to put in there is anything private. So if you're emailing me about your grade, then don't use the Ask My Instructor board because everybody will be able to see what you're emailing me. So if you want to ask a question about a grade or about, how you're doing in the class, then go ahead and send an email for that. The Ask a Classmate discussion board is one that I kind of stay out of, and you guys talk to each other. So those conversations that you might have in the hallway before you walk into class, or in the hallway on the way out of class, where you say, like, you want to get together and have a study session. Did you understand what she said about this? Can you explain that a different way? That aren't related to a specific subject in the class. You're not having that conversation about a median because we have discussions set up specifically for those ideas. Just kind of navigating or setting up study groups, or talking about the tutoring center or any of that kind of stuff. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and select the Start Here button, and it will bring me directly into the introduction module when it's ready to load. There it goes. So you can see the Start Here and course information, and then these are titles, so you can't actually select them. They don't do anything. Tell me more about this course. How will I learn online? What about assignments and grading? Where can I find help? What should I do next? And from there we hit Unit 1. Remember I said our book was broken into big parts, and I call those units. And each unit will be an exam. So Unit 1 will cover Week 1, Week 2, Week 3, Week 4, Week 5, and then you see Unit 2. So Week 5 must be an exam. So a couple of points on just navigating Canvas, because we have so many of these units and modules, it can get overwhelming to scroll down. If you collapse these, then Canvas will remember which ones you collapse. So as we move forward in the semester, just keep collapsing the weeks that you've finished, and then you don't have to scroll down so far to get to the current week that you're at. I've also put in the date range for each week, and remember all assignments are due on a Wednesday. That means for week 1, 8/19 through 8/23, all of this stuff is due this Wednesday. All of this stuff is due this Wednesday. All of this stuff is due this Wednesday. And then your exam needs to be proctored during the exam proctoring week by Wednesday. And that will continue until all the way through the final, and our final is on the Wednesday of finals week. So scrolling back up, Your Start Here module, you would just select the first page, anything that's selectable, and you can read through this. It's got information about how you might be dropped from the class. If like you're missing for a long period of time, then I might drop you from the class. Information on accessibility. How can I get to things if maybe I can't use a mouse, or if I can't hear, or if I can't see, then how would I be able to use all of the same things that my other students are using? And that is all laid out right here, and I've made sure that anything in our classroom is meant for everybody to be able to use equally. So login error, contacting me, proctoring, my math lab, and then you just hit this next button at the bottom. And you get to the meet your instructor, next button, and the course overview, and you can continue all the way through. Every time you just hit the next button. Here's our syllabus. And you'll make it through the entire module by just continually hitting the next button. And if you want to go back and look at an overview of the module, you can do that. On your student version, you should be getting little check marks next to these to make sure that you've read them, so you can tell whether or not you've read them. There should be a little check mark that shows up. And then you'll get to unit overview. Open that in a new tab, which just gives you some of the short goals for that section and the weeks that it will cover. In each week, we have a lecture section, and then the assignments, the actual homework, and discussions. And then week 2, we have a lecture section, homework, and discussions. And week 3, same thing, and it doesn't get different really until you get to the exam week, which has fewer material. So the material for exam 1 would be a review that I'll build and put in here, and maybe like a short lecture slide reminding you how to get something proctored, something, maybe a video on some review topics that will be added later. And then your exam, so there's not actually anything here except a reminder that you need to go get it proctored. And then there's usually a lighter discussion for the exam week, since you're spending most of your time prepping for an exam. So there's usually only 1 or 2 discussions during the exam week, and they're usually lighter discussions. So this one would be real world statistics, where you're just kind of looking for a cool podcast or TED Talk or YouTube video or a book about statistics, and just kind of saying what you liked about it, essentially. So that's the basics of our class. Again, from the home page, you can get to the syllabus, the modules, the Ask the Instructor, Ask a Classmate, and announcements. It's very important that you used your settings to be able to change your settings and make sure that you're getting like a text message or an email when I send out an announcement. Your gradebook is over here. Starfish is a way for me to send progress reports that go to your whole team at Crafton. So that might include your counselor or a coach or an EOPS worker, anything that you have working with you at Crafton. If I send a report through Starfish that includes not just feedback, but kudos, things you did a good job on, then everybody on your team will receive that message. There's some handy student resources that just kind of go over like online tutoring and different options for online students here at San Bernardino Community College District, which includes Esson Valley. There's your My Math Lab button, and there is your assignments and your discussions. So there in the Start Here module, there's a whole section on how to sign up for My Math Lab. Essentially, you will select this, and you will open My Math Lab in Mastering, and you'll go through a registration process unless you have already created an account for some other class. Then you would just sign in. So either you're going to sign into the account you already have and then purchase our book, or if you've already purchased it, then you're good to go. Or you're going to create a Pearson account and purchase the book through My Math Lab. There is a 2-week free trial for our book, so if you're not sure that you're ready to go, then you can try the book for 2 weeks and sort of get a feel for it and then pay for it later. You cannot do your homework without access to My Math Lab, so make sure you sign up for it right away so that you can start the homework. And if you have issues with, say, your BOG waiver or something coming in late so that you can't purchase it, reach out to me, because we have funds on campus to give emergency book loans that are 0% interest, and it will allow you to buy the book and then wait for that waiver or that financial aid check to come in. I think that's the majority of what I wanted to show you in here. Once you initiated your My Math Lab account and you've signed in, then every time you sign into Canvas after that, you'll automatically be signed into Math Lab. You shouldn't have to go here ever again, because the modules, like I said, have everything built in, including the lectures. So if you just select the lecture and you're signed into MyMathLab, it'll open and you don't actually have to go anywhere else. And the same for all the homeworks. If you're signed into MyMathLab, you can just come to the modules and open all the homeworks. All right, I'm looking forward to having a semester with you guys. Email me if you have any questions. I hope this somewhat very long video, 20 minutes on YouTube is a long time, helped you sort of orient yourself to the class. And if you have any further questions, shoot me an email. I can make another video, or I can just answer some one-off questions. And I look forward to seeing you or seeing what you type into the discussion boards.